Sure. I did. I had a friend of mine who owns a restaurant franchise, a number of them, and I had done some minor consulting work with him, and that got me exposed to franchising. I wanted a process that would help me make the right decision. Help essentially give me the guidance of doing something that I had never done before. What surprised me about your process was really the beginning. It's one thing that I found pretty interesting, and that was the assessment about me, my skills, and my goals, and lining that up with franchises that that would meet those, where I would excel at. And so it kind of helped get things started off the right foot fundamentally, and then we kind of went from there. So that, I would say, uh, exceeded my expectations in the sense that I hadn't even thought about that, but so I had appreciated that. So I think it put me in a great position because it helped set the expectations of what I would be going through before I went through them. So from a preparation side, that was good. Um, and not just on what I was going to be doing throughout the process, but how to best perform it. So for example, in the due diligence process and talking to different franchisees, lining up with, I mean, there could be so many questions to ask them, but you're dealing with a limited amount of time. So what are really the most critical things that, and prioritizing those questions with them, I thought was really important. And, uh, just making sure I had the right guidance and push if I needed it to talk to enough franchisees to get the information and the data that I needed to make proper decisions. I mean, my experience with franchising was, seeing franchises. I could see a Subway or whatever, but when I got into it with my buddy who's got the Hardys, that was primarily my experience. I think it is aligned with my expectations in the sense that I'm working with a company that we're not reinventing the wheel. It's a group of professionals that is an extremely diligent and thoughtful organization that is going to invest their time and energy in me, so that I succeed and so that they succeed. One of the challenges that I had when I first started researching franchises was just the sheer number. I mean, there were thousands of concepts that are out there. And I see all these concepts, and some are marketed different than others, and you keep coming across these things. But just because something might be high on the list of top franchises doesn't necessarily it means it's going to align to meet my goals and my skills. So going back to that fundamental part I mentioned earlier, doing that assessment of yourself to find out what a good franchise concept is really important. But not just that. Again, there's thousands of franchises out there. Not all of them are created equal. Some are better than others. So I think it was really nice to work with a consultant, with Rick, to help pre-screen some of these concepts out there so that the ones that I was researching, were all good concepts. It takes a lot of time to go through the due diligence process. You don't want to spend your time on something that's just not going to be, a credible franchise. No doubt. I would highly recommend that process. If I had any friends, family, or whatever that wanted to get in franchising, I would I would recommend the process. I would recommend I'd recommend Rick. Um, because I now have confidence in that process. I've got confidence in Rick's approach to make sure that we find a franchise that's the right fit for me. I think one of the things that I learned going through the process that, you know, the, that I appreciated hearing about Rick was a story actually from the franchisor. I was talking to them. I met them at their headquarters in a different state. And they said, you know, how did you hear about us and all this? I said, well, I worked through a consultant. They said, which one? I said, Franchise. They said, who were you working with? I said, Rick Bisio. They said, oh, we know Rick. He's a professional. I said, yeah, he's been excellent. And they said, well, he's pretty tough. I said, tough? What do you mean? He said, that guy, he wouldn't give us a lead in 2 years. I said, really? And so I went back and I told Rick that story, and I appreciated that. And he goes, yeah. He goes, it's funny that they said that. He goes, he goes, I know a ton of franchises, and I don't, I'm not just gonna introduce anybody to any franchise. I want to do my process first. I want to make sure they're real, and before I send any clients that way. And so I really appreciated that.